Hi guys, let's begin. I'm just waiting for others and I'm receiving queries from many students that the link is not visible. Is it? Good morning, Yash. Good morning, Vanita. You're finding problems in finding the links in LMS portal? Are you guys finding problems? Oh, I would then just communicate it with the team. Just allow me a minute. Okay, no worries. We will begin. I hope that the glitches will be resolved by the next session. Okay, everyone, I know that we were there together for our previous batch also, right? But you guys joined, I think, for certain portions and then you could not continue, if I'm not wrong. Yes, and Vinita, you were there for some sessions. Okay. Yes, you too. You were only there for taxes. Okay. Okay, people, just to begin now. So we are beginning with our SBR classes, and that the classes schedule would be Tuesday, Thursday morning time 7:30 to 10:30 and Friday evening time 7 to 10. Okay, this would be how your classes will go on. All the updates and every information about the sessions as was received in the WhatsApp groups earlier. Just a minute. I'm having multiple queries by the students. I wonder why. Okay, so yes, okay, yeah. So earlier we used to have the WhatsApp group concept. Now the concept has been changed to LMS, this LMS joining link, LMS joining, as well as the communications would be through WhatsApp channel. So I really wish and I really expect you all to be in line with that communications. If you've not joined the channel, please join it. Otherwise, you would be missing out on the communications. Okay. Uh, SBR is a very, very vast syllabus. You have seen that, a portion of it in the previous batch. So yes, it is a very vast syllabus and it really requires a lot of practice. So this time I'm just changing a bit of strategy, okay, of how we are going to be having the sessions. So the strategy difference would be like one day we will have, like Tuesday, we will have 3 hours full study time. Then the next day to it, Thursday, we will have 1 hour dedicated to discussion of questions. Wherein I intend to take, like last time we took around 15 to 20 past paper questions. This time I intend to take about 30 to 35 past paper and the other relevant questions. Okay. So the intention is that we do a lot of questions in the class. So Tuesday, complete study time. Thursday, 1 hour practice, 2 hour study time. Again, Friday, complete study time. And then Tuesday, 1 hour. So in a span of 3 days, we will have 1 to 2 hours question solving time. Okay, this is what my plan is. Out of those 9 hours, at least 1 to 2 hours will go towards question solving. Please do rigorous homework questions practice that I would be giving to you always that I give you. So make sure that you're doing it. Now, instead of just doing homework questions from the other materials, I would be giving you past paper questions also Some questions we'll be discussing in class, and some questions, some relevant portions we will be doing in homework. So that parallelly you will have your past paper coverage as well as in the class. I hope it works for everyone. Yes, and I do hope that this time Yash and Vinita and all the other students would do their homework questions rigorously. Aim is to again achieve 100 out of 100. Okay, so this is possible. Let's have it. Last time also we had a rank from our batch. So I think consistently for the last 4 quarters we have had continuous ranks from SBR. Okay, and not, I mean, I'm hopeful for this term as well. So let's maintain and continue with this decorum. Okay, now moving forward, one question that I really want to know and that I really want to ask from both of you is, what do you think SBR will help you in your career progress or in your career chart? How SBR paper will help you? Can you tell me any reason that how, or basically a way that SBR can help you? Tell me, you're doing SBR because it's a compulsory paper of ACCA. But how it is going to help you in your career progress? Have you ever thought about it? How SBR is going to be such a critical, portion that would play a very relevant and a very pivotal role when you are entering into corporate life and you'll be doing your, in your employment or self-employment anywhere. Can you think of something, Yash and Vinita? Have you ever given a thought that how a particular paper could be very relevant to you when it comes to your career? Because you are not here just to clear your exams. You are here to ensure that when you become ACCA professional, ACCA, the holder, then you are in a position where you can apply these principles. You can apply whatever you have learned in the most appropriate way in your working life. Okay, Vinita says that it will help us in applying the accounting standards and concepts while doing practical. And I would say it is not just application of accounting standards and concepts. SBR teaches you that how you are well versed with your financial reporting, and when you're required to prepare financial reports for your organization, you should be absolutely current, completely in terms with it. Very good. So Yash has given me the reason that he studied FR in CA and studied the Ind AS. So knowing international reporting would give him more knowledge. And exactly. So you're working in an Indian subcontinent, you're working internationally. You need to have a global knowledge. You need to have a universal knowledge. Correct? For that purposes, SBR plays a very, very crucial role. I mean, this is one of the reason why it is not an optional paper, it's a compulsory paper. Because accounting standards, financial reporting, financial planning, it's a base, it's a core feature for any organization. So you should be well versed with it. You should know how to apply it, because the day you have cleared your ACCA and the day you've got an employment, an employer would always assume that you know each and everything, bits and bits of, the financial reporting, financial management, taxation like this. So you should be absolutely having the perfect control and hold over these subjects. So this is one of the key reasons why SBR is such an important subject, which is not just important for you for clearing your exams, but also to ensure that when you are into your professional life, you are actually able to handle every situation. So I'll give you one quick example. I remember when I was working with, a manufacturing sector. The day I joined the organization, even though I was just a newly qualified, accountant, So when I qualified and when I joined that entity, I was assumed under day one that I know everything. And maybe my timing was wrong or so that I joined at the time when the closing financials were prepared. So I directly had to handle the entries relating to the closures, like whether you have the inventory valuations, the foreign exchange transactions, and so on and on. If I had not, you know, I had not the knowledge of these accounting standards, the application, the reporting framework, the consolidation frameworks, then I would not have been able to handle it there. So all I'm trying to say is when you read a paper, when you study for a paper, when you look into the exam related case studies, please just don't keep it limited to your clearing of exam. Have complete hold of that subject so that when you are actually encountering those practical situations, you are not having a fumble, you are not actually, getting stuck somewhere. You have absolute clarity in your mind for your thoughts. I hope I'm absolutely clear on it. With this, now first, let's have a background understanding of SBR. See, I always take first step is where we visit the ACCA global platform, right, to see your study resources applicable. So we'll go into it, we'll see the study exam pattern. So it's more like an orientation session today, though we'll be covering some bit of other topics also. Today's session is restricted to 2 hours since it's the first session. And as the students are also finding challenges in joining with the link, so which I'm sure will be settled in the due course. So the next session, you will have a full-fledged session onwards. Okay. Now, quickly, please may put these things clearly in mind. Just a minute, let me share this. And this area of your study resource is to be used and make use of completely 100%. That is ACCA Study Hub. It is one of the most key areas, even though most of the questions are covered in your VGLD book that is provided to you at the backside. Still, the questions get updated by ACCA every exam quarter. So it's a very good free resource given to you by ACCA for ample questions practice. And why I'm discussing it here, because the students many times they ask me, ma'am, do you prefer if we take the exam kit of other learning providers, sorry, other this study material providers? Then I always say, please do not make yourself overburdened, over pressurized, and over troubled. Please don't make it. You have your book, your study book, which is given to you by VGLD, then your study hub resources, then your past papers, CBE practice this papers, specimen exam. You do all this and it's more than sufficient. And apart from this, on the top of it, around more than 40 to 50 questions at least, I give you as homework questions. So this is a lot that you are doing. Okay, at least you have full control and 100% understanding of these questions that you are doing. So then it's it becomes comfortable to handle the questions in the exam. You don't need to do questions from 2, 3, 4 kids in order to ensure that you are clearing your exam or you're getting very high scores. Even if you do few questions but you have absolute clarity, then you are going to have high scores only. Absolutely no problems about it. Okay, now I would always play this video of SBR, that is an introduction video from your ACCA. Okay, September 23 onwards, the pattern has already changed for exams, so no more changes applicable. Okay, and wherever there are some changes which are there in the content, I've already incorporated in the notes. So you will not find any challenges in going through those changes, which are applicable for June attempt. For September attempt onwards, there are other changes.
Strategic business reporting examines your ability to make strategic business reporting decisions. Building on your existing knowledge and skills, you will need to link accounting issues to relevant concepts in practical situations. You should also demonstrate judgment and consider the perspective of different stakeholders, such as investors, in your answers. You'll also
So basically, essentially, you are required to do an analysis. You are required to do an evaluation. And you are not just looking from the stakeholders' point of view, internal and external, but you are also looking from the point of view of whether they are prepared as per the respective IFRS or not. Okay, so those conditions are being met or not also. And also from ethics point of view, whether with the actions that are taken by the management is ethically correct or wrong. Okay, so all these areas we cover through in our discussion.
need to exercise professional and ethical judgment. We know that students who have completed the Ethics and Professional Skills module are significantly more likely to pass SBR, so make sure you plan it into your studies. ACCA recommends studying with an approved learning partner and using study materials from our approved content providers. However you study, ACCA will support your learning journey with a range of free resources. The Examiner's Approach article is a good place to start. We also provide examiners' reports which give constructive and detailed feedback, and there are technical and exam technique articles to further refine your knowledge and skills. To practice and perfect your exam technique, the CBE Practice platform replicates the real exam experience and allows you to practice up-to-date exam standard questions before marking and reviewing your answers using detailed marking guides and model answers. There are two sections in the exam. Section A has two compulsory scenario-based questions, totaling 50 marks. Question 1 is based on the financial statements of group entities or extracts thereof, and in addition may require consideration of financial reporting issues. Question 2 will involve the consideration of the reporting and ethical implications of some accounting issues presented in a specific scenario. Section B has two compulsory 25-mark questions, which may be based on a short scenario or a case study which has several parts, or an essay. They will contain both discursive and computational elements and could deal with any aspect of the syllabus. Using the resources available from ACCA and your...
So the purpose of playing this video is just to make you aware that what is the outlook of the examiners when they are setting the paper and when they have to set up the syllabus of SBR. So in short, if I just summarize it, SBR is going to test you from all the areas of applying your judgments, doing the evaluations, ensuring that the accounting standards are followed thoroughly, okay, and you are explaining to the examiner that what is the accounting standard which is applicable here, what does it talk about, how it is related to the case study given in the question, okay, and in relation to the case study given in the question, what are the implications of that IFRS, and then finally a conclusion. So this is a three-step process that typically you're always going to follow. Okay, then more apart from this, we are also going to be doing evaluations based on different tools like ratio analysis and all. Okay, the understanding what is the final outcome of the decision which is given to you in the question. Then looking from the question from the consolidation point of view, that when there's a consolidation going on, then what are the different areas that you're going to touch down upon, okay, or what are the different processes that you're going to look into, and ensuring that the accounting standards are fulfilled and the requirement given in the question is also met. Also, we're going to look from the ethical point of view, that whether the ethics as per your ACC code of ethics are being met with or not. There is no breach. If there is a breach, then what is the safeguard to be adopted? So these are all, this is in short the summary of your SBR syllabus. Okay, let's quickly have a look at the exam pattern. Then I'll come back to this ACCA platform to make you aware of all the other areas that are relevant. Okay. Let's have a quick look at the exam pattern. Exam pattern, or essentially if I say, I'll just put one more point here. SBR exam is a CBE exam. I do hope that everybody knows what is a CBE. It's a computer based examination. Okay, absolutely, there is no manual writing involved. You are not going to write anything on the paper and submit. Okay, everything will be on the computer screen only. So it will be completely 100% computer based exam. Time allowed would be 3 hour 15 minutes. Okay, time allowed is 3 hour 15 minutes. Maximum marks are 100 and passing marks are 50%. Right? And although now I'll add to it with proud that at VGLD our pass rate is, the last term only we had a pass rate of 95% and with an average scoring around 60-65. Okay, that means with all of you, do not consider your pass rate as 50%, your pass percent marks as 50%. You can easily elevate it to at least 80, 85, 90, 95. Absolutely no problem. SBR exam is not difficult at all. It is lengthy, it is vast. So you have to just make sure that you are writing everything within time, because there's too much that you know and very limited that you have to write, right? So that becomes a challenge. That's all. Otherwise, SBR is not at all a very difficult paper to handle with. Okay, quickly, your exam pattern typically is divided into two sections, section A and section B. Section A has got two questions, section B also two questions, but the weightage are different. For section A, the first question is for 30 marks. For section A, the second question is for 20 marks. The 30 marks questions typically is on group accounting. Okay, that means your consolidations, foreign subsidiaries, foreign operations, consolidation with cash flows. Okay, consolidated statement of P&L, consolidated statement of financial position, extracts, the different IFRS applicability, calculations, and analysis. All this would be a part of consolidation question. So we do consolidation and you're securing your 30 marks. Then 20 marks is relating precisely to any ethics related topics. Okay, that we will be covering as the first topic also for our syllabus. Ethics is just to ensure that as per the ACCA code of ethics, there are certain fundamental principles. You just have to ensure that whether any fundamental principles are getting breached or not. If yes, what are the threats that have arisen due to the breach of fundamental principle and how to take safeguards to mitigate the risk. This is completely what you're going to write in your ethics paper. But of course, here also linking with other IFRSs are made. So you should be well versed with those IFRSs. Section B is divided into again two questions of 25 marks each. Okay, and here both the questions are basically involving discursive. They are basically discursive and calculation based questions. That means they will have discussions on both theory as well as calculations. For SBR, please remember you have more of theory, less of calculations. So it goes around 70% theory, 30% calculation. Okay, so you just have to develop the habit of writing as well. And the section B questions can be from anywhere in the syllabus. Generally, it is a combination of multiple IFRS, multiple IAs are asked in a single question, right? So, other matters also like current issues, like additional performance measures. As we progress in the syllabus, we'll study about it. All these are also part of your judging area of your section B. Okay, section B, each question is for 25 marks each. Now, apart from this, like in the other P-level papers, okay, like in the other P-level papers, we have professional skills marks also. Here also you will have professional skills mark. But you will say, ma'am, you've not written anywhere for the professional skills, because professional skills marks are not fixed for SBR. We don't know if professional skills will be tested in section B or section A, right? So accordingly, I've not written it here. Although I will write it as a note here that in above, for above, professional skills will also form part of the questions required. Okay, so they will also form part of the questions requirements, and as per the marks mentioned, you will be getting those marks, ensuring that the skills are met with. So we will discuss in the due course which are the 4 professional skills that are applicable to all professional levels. Okay, and then how to ensure that you secure the marks. So we'll discuss about it as we progress into the syllabus. So far, any issues, any queries? Good morning, Jatin. Please put them in the query in the chat box. So far, whatever we have discussed, any challenges, any issues, any queries that you have? Anyone in the class? Okay. Any questions to you, Yash? Any questions for you? Yeah, current issues is the issues for which we are still not having the IFRSs properly, any typical IFRS dedicated to it. So these are the issues that are, or these are the issues which are faced by some respective IFRS. Like we say, the drawbacks of certain IFRS, some inclusion of certain points. These are covered in current issues. We will be covering them in the syllabus. So, for example, cryptocurrency, we don't have an IFRS for it. For example, the climate changes and the seasonal nature of the business. We don't have any typical IFRS about it. But these are the issues which have faced by the organization. So, to handle those issues, we'll study current issues. Yeah. Okay, let's move forward. I just need 2 minutes. Okay, then we will continue with the ACC global platform. Okay, just 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. Now, I really want to make you all aware of the use that you can make for your study support resources. Okay, the study support resource is a very vast resource made available to you free of cost by ACC. So apart from what we study in the class, what we discuss, especially for your question practice and for, for some portions that I wanted to cover to ensure that you have a smooth exam, let's have a look at it. First and foremost, you would be always needing CB introduction. Okay, you all can go through this video and all, but we will be doing questions on the screen. I will be showing you today about the CB platform also. Okay, that is in case if any of you have not access to it, please access it regularly. In the class, I really want to make sure that all of you are doing questions on the CB platform as much as possible, or use Excel, your system Excel, to do the questions on. Please do not do any questions on the pen with the pen and paper and using calculators solving it. The reason being, you would need to do the questions in Excel in the class as well as is in the Excel in the during the exams. So please develop a habit of doing it. Otherwise, I've seen students who find challenges in managing their time because it is taking a lot of time while doing questions on Excel. But if you develop a habit for the same, then it doesn't become so difficult and you are easily able to navigate through it. Okay. Next, very, very important area is study hub, like I said. Parallelly, as you're doing the questions in the class, chapter-wise questions are there on Study Hub. Please solve them also parallelly. Then examiner's report. Very, 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 very important. Because I'll tell you what is the purpose of examiner's report. Examiner's report are the observations and constructive advice from the marking process by the examiners. So it is an advice, it's kind of a summary of advices that the examiner have given in respect to certain questions that they picked up based on what was the average score, average, answering by the students and where it went wrong or which was the good approach that the student adopted. You go through these examiners report and you would be able to have a perfect outlook of, how you should be answering your questions. I would be covering one examiner's report in the class in maybe, just, and that is at the early level of your syllabus. So maybe this week or next week, I'll be covering it. One, there are multiple examiners report. If you look here, there are multiple examiners report that are made available to you. See, there are 8 examiners report. I'll take one. You can just go through at least one or two more. Even if not much, at least go through 2, 3 examiners report. Okay, another point, technical articles and these podcast. I really find technical articles to be very useful. In fact, I always incorporate portions of technical articles in the notes. Okay, because they are very good articles given by the fellow ACCAs as well as typically the ones who are examiners. So they help you in understanding the portions much better. And some good examples are also given. So in my notes, generally I try to involve them. Okay, include a portion of them. But of course, you should always go through these sections. It's a very, very important and very, very good area that ACC has introduced. That is, you have 2 questions given here. Okay, and approach from the examiners or the markers point of view is highlighted here. Right? Again, these techniques would help you to pass your ACC, your SBR exam very smoothly, very smoothly. Okay. And most of these portions are already there in the notes. The notes are created from that mindset only. Okay. And then lastly, your ACCA, your SBR mock exams, your past exams, they are like compulsory, mandatory to be done by everybody. Now, one approach that I found in students is they wait for the syllabus to end and then they start with mocks. And by the time they do it, it's only maybe a week remaining, 4 days, 3 days remaining for the exam. And then they have the crunch time that, look, ma'am, I'm not able to cover the entire mocks. Why do you wait for the syllabus to end? When your syllabus is almost 80-90% complete, start doing mocks that time only. Start doing mocks. If you think there is a particular question that you're not able to do, highlight it. Come back to that question later when you completed with the syllabus. So it saves your time, it gives you more confidence, and you're able to correct your errors early rather than panicking at the last hour. Okay, please have this approach absolutely embedded in your studies preparation pattern. Now, looking further, these are the pass rates, but we are much ahead of these pass rates. So, averagely 50-51% is the pass rate for SBR. Okay, I'll take you to the CBE platform. Okay, let's have a look. So, boss, this is SBR. You will go to your My ACCA portal, you're on catalogs, and then you're on SBR. You will select bank workspace, please. When you're writing your homework questions, when you're doing questions in the class, I will also take CB platform, but I will not use it extensively since I have a restriction of class time. So I would be using my Excel more. But though we'll be doing some questions on CB platform as well. Okay, I encourage you all to use this resource as much as possible so that in the exam you don't have a speed constraint. Because like I said, SBR syllabus is a lengthy syllabus. SBR question paper would be a lengthy paper. It will not be a very challenging paper. That means you would know everything. But if you not planned your time well, you will not be able to write anything. So what is the use of knowing if you cannot write? Right? So therefore, it is needed that you have the practice embedded in you or embedded in your study pattern only when you are covering your syllabus. So that by the end, you're not panicking and you're absolutely well versed with the CB platform. Okay. Now, you know that for you all, it's SBR International which is applicable. Okay, now these are the official resources, past exam library, practice exam, and specimen. I'll open one specimen exam just to show you how the paper looks like. Can you look here? Your time limit is 3 hours 15 minutes. Okay, please look here. Section A is divided into 2 questions. Section B, 2 questions, each for 25 marks each. Now, these are the 2 questions. Show all the notes and workings that you want your examiner to know within your responses. Any notes or workings written on the online scratch pad would not be marked because it is going to go away the moment you submit your exam. Okay, now please look at my screen. I'm reading this question. This is section A, first question. Let's see the requirements. The requirements are listed down here, and you will be writing your answer according to the requirements. The questions is further information is displayed in these exhibits. And the requirements you will see, and based on the requirements, you will open the relevant exhibits, read them, and answer the question. So suppose I'm reading this question. Okay, and I find that this statement is important for me. That all goodwill other than that relating to grid company has been impaired. And if I read the paragraph once, reading it again will make it very time consuming. Correct? And at the same time, I may just miss out on data if I don't read it properly. So in order to solve the situation, we have this highlighting feature in. So when you're reading the question for the first time, highlight all the relevant areas so that when you are solving the question, that time you just have to look at the relevant areas, the relevant highlighted ones, and then you are solving the question. So this will help you to save time and this will give you more confidence and more clarity. Now, if there is certain information that I don't want only to be displayed because it is creating confusion, then I can use the feature of strike through. Okay, then these are the symbols, calculators, and scratchpad. Scratchpad is just like your rough papers. Okay, now please just understand that there are 2 modes of giving your exam. One way is you book a center exam and you go to the center and give the center-based exam over there. So at that time, you'll be given 2 sheets of paper and a pen and pencil and the examiner sheet center only. You don't have to bring your own stuff for that. You just have to bring your admit card, you have to bring your ID card and so on. Now, the second way is you don't want to travel to the center and you want to give the exam from home. You're allowed to give remote-based exam, correct? Now, remote exams will, however, not be allowed with physical paper. So when you're appearing for a remote-based exam, you're not allowed to have physical paper to write your, write your rough work. Instead, you will use this online scratch pad to write your rough work. My one suggestion to you, if you have a plan to give the remote-based exam, then please practice yourself more on the scratch pad, because otherwise this is very difficult to practice. Whatever you write on scratch pad, you can copy paste it to the answers that is available. Okay. This is the next case. It is for 20 marks. Your section A is over. Then we will go to section B. Okay. Section B will have Section B has again 2 questions of 25 marks each, and the requirements exhibits are all mentioned. Are you clear with the exam pattern, everyone? Any questions, any doubts in this exam pattern? Please put up in the chat box. Quickly, just put it up, please. Any doubts? Guys, are you clear? Yash, Vinita, Jatin, are you also able to understand, and are you also able to be having a clarity of thought how your study approach is going to be? It's going to be different from the other professional levels that you are appearing for or that you have appeared for. It is not going to be the same way that you're prepared for them, you're going to prepare here. It's more practical based, so you should have a thorough clarity on how to apply these concepts practically. We are going to be following this book for the class. Okay? For your class purposes, you're going to be following this book. Please see, there are in total 22 chapters, and we have a chapter dedicated on issues as well. Okay? And then we have chapter-wise questions and answers for each of these chapters. And apart from these chapter-wise questions, we have uh, section A and section B, both dedicated questions. Like section A, group entities and reporting and ethical implications. This is also, I mean, for this also we have a vast question bank. So you have so many questions here. You have questions here. You have study hub. You have mocks. You have past exam. Do you think you need any other material? No, you don't need any other material. Okay. Okay, so let's begin with the first chapter, ethics. Okay, and I'll give you 5. Let's have the first chapter discussion, ethics, and recount it. Okay, let's have a 5 minutes break. After 5 minutes, we begin with this. Okay, I'm just giving you 5 minutes because we have a very small session of 2 hours today. Okay, so just refresh yourself for 5 minutes. And we'll begin at 8:31. Okay, let's have the discussion on the first topic, ethics and accountant. Before we go into the discussion, I have a question to ask. Now, let's see, you are an ACCA professional and you're going to act for a client. Okay, even when you're an employee and you're working for an employer, situation would be same. My question to you is, would it matter to you as an ACCA professional that the client that you are dealing with, okay, the client that you are dealing with is entering into some offensive activities? For example, there are some information, okay, there is some income information, some sales information, profits information and all, which is not disclosed completely with the taxation department. Let's take this example, okay, where there is information hidden from the taxation department. Now my question to you is, would it matter to you that if you're dealing with a client and that client has not disclosed full information to the tax department, would it matter to you in the capacity of a professional tax expert for them? A professional, sorry, professional accountant for them? Would it matter to you? Yes or no? Yash says yes. Yes, it would definitely affect us. Vinita says yes, it is going to affect us if the client, and absolutely correct, Jatin, if the client that we are dealing with is entered into some illegal or offensive activities. Absolutely correct. I'm in line with you. Now, my next question to you would be, what should be your approach then? What you should do ideally in that situation where you have become aware that the client that you are dealing with is hidden, has hidden information from the HMRC, or is basically, has hidden information from HMRC. What you should do? Yes, says we should disclose it to HMRC, to the tax department, that the entity is entered into some offensive activities. Okay. What do you think, Jatin and Vinita? What we should do? What should be the first step that you should do as a professional accountant for that client? Let yourself in the Satyam case where Ramalinga Raju had entered into offensive activities. Had PwC known about it, being their professional advisors, had PwC known about it, what should be their first step? Whether you take the Enron case or any other cases like this. Very good. So first, I would really appreciate Jatin's approach. We'll first discuss with the client to disclose the same to the tax department. Very good. You are never going to directly take a replication. Otherwise, unless you have really persuaded the client, you have disclosed to the client all the pros and cons and try to persuade them that you please disclose this information to HMRs. Then the next step is not disclosing to the client or to the HMRC anything. Why? Why we will not disclose anything to the department? Because we are bound by the principle of confidentiality. Very good, Yash. If PwC was an auditor of Satyam, PwC did not have any right to disclose the wronggoings which are happening at Satyam with the department, because they are bound by the principle of confidentiality, which is a part of their ethics. Then ideally what we should do, Vinita, what do you suggest? I cannot disclose to the department that okay, this entity is entering into some unethical practices. Then what we should do? What is the best course of action then for you to do? If the client is not getting persuaded also, client is not ready to disclose information to HMRC, then what you should do? Absolutely correct, Yash. Wonderful. You should withdraw your engagement. You should withdraw the acceptance of your engagement. You would refrain from acting for the client. You would stop. And you would inform. Yes, we would prepare a qualification report when you're in the capacity of an auditor. Wonderful. But as an ethical responsibility, if you're a professional accountant, you would stop working for that client. Once you stop working for the client, your responsibility ends there. But at the same time, you'll have to inform HMRC or the department that you are no longer working for the client. But you will never give a reason for the same. Why? Because you're bound by the principle of confidentiality. Correct. So ethical questions will always require you to think, to have your judgments, to have your evaluations applicable here. Let's have one more situation, and it's not this situation. It's going to be a different situation that I'm taking. Okay. Now you are going to be appointed. I'm going to be taking the topic in detail. Don't worry. I'm just trying to start your thought process. Okay. Now you have a client. Wait. Okay, I'm discussing this case where you have got a new appointment. Okay, you have got a new appointment. That is, you have got a prospective client. My first step, my first question to you, this is a new client to you. Prospective client means this is a new client. So, quick question to you. When there is a new client that is approaching you, or that is, you may be entering into an agreement with, do you think you are going to undertake any safeguard measures just to ensure that the things look good with the client and there is nothing that you should be skeptical about before going ahead with the appointment? Do you think? If yes, then what are the different safeguards that you would adopt when you are entering into a new agreement with a new client? What are the things that you should look into? Tell me quickly. Let's have the running of our brains. You have all these portions covered in the syllabus. Okay. But let's have a thought process that what we can think. Just take yourself in a position a new client has come to you. You want to accept the appointment, but then you don't want any risk to be there. So, what are the steps that you would take to safeguard yourself when you are accepting an appointment with a new client? Please quickly pour in your answers. Discussion with the previous professional. Stop, Yash. Good point. So I'll be taking one by one point, okay? Yash has given me a very interesting point, and Yash says we will first interact, okay? We will first have the opinions from the previous accountants or the previous auditors, as the case may be. So we will have first step that Yash has suggested is discussion with the previous uh, accountants. Now, my question to you, what they will discuss about? They will discuss that why did you leave the client? Were there any problems in relation with the client? Why did you leave that appointment? And what all matters? Okay, now I'm taking one by one point at them. Now, my question back to all of you is when you're discussing with the previous client, the previous accountants of that client, suppose that accountants are not giving you information. They say, boss, we are bound by the contract of confidentiality and the client has not permitted us to give you any information. Okay, the accountants are not ready to give you any information. Then what you should do? Quickly! Come on, all your brain should start working now. Okay. So Yash says in this case, we'll ask for financials from the client for review financial reports, discuss with the client itself why the previous accountant and auditor left. No, you cannot discuss all these matters with the client. Do you think client will tell you? Client will give you, a client is not entitled to give you any reasons for the same. So what you should do as per the ACCA Code of Ethics, if the previous accountants are not ready to share any information, that means it raises questions, right? It raises questions whether the things were actually they were going good or they were going perfect without any offenses at the client place or not. So if the client is stopped it from discussing or sharing their information, then as per ACCA Code of Ethics, you should leave that engagement. You should leave that engagement. You will not go ahead to accept that appointment. No. You are going to stop your appointment then and there only. Okay, very good. So please just understand this pointer. Vinita, I'm not having any inputs from you. Okay, I want you to participate. Okay, yeah, you have given me. Sorry, my bad. Review financial reports. Yeah, the next one is Jatin is given me the point. We'll review their finance statements, review their old boards and auditors report, feedback from the previous accountant. So in short, I can say the second pointer that you are offering, the second pointer I would say would be uh, review the financial statements and please understand the clients will not share financial statements if it's a private limited company. Okay, you can get the data accessed from the website of the entity, because if it's a private company, then of course they're not entitled to share. This is a practical, real practical problem that I'm telling you. But of course, theoretically, we review the financial statements just to ensure that there are, on the prima facie, on the face of it, we are not having any kind of negativities around it, or even we'll review the audit reports to see what kind of opinion is expressed there. Third, the foremost that you have missed out is the background check of directors, partners, okay, all these. So of the directors, partners, you will do a background check for them, that whether these directors, partners, they were having the integrity intact or not. Is there any offenses registered against them? You have check their ID cards, check their registered address. If it is an incorporated entity, check their certificate of incorporation and so. Okay, I hope I'm clear for it. So these are some of the steps that you are going to follow when you're approaching a prospective client. That is a new client. I'll discuss more when we go into the further details of this chapter. So what is this ethics chapter about? This ethics chapter is simply a 3-step process. How you do a background check, you get the ID cards and the registered address, all these documents which are already there with the entity, and these are public documents. So they can always be shared with you. Okay. Okay, now let's go into this chapter and let me just give you more background about this. This is a typical, I would always say that these are free marks. 20 ethics marks are free marks. Why? Because all you have to do is just think from this evaluation point of view and put your pointers together. Right? So it's not that you're actually applying a lot of technical aspects to it. Though you will have references to some IFRSs, but that is going to be a limited scope. More focus would be on following the ACCA Code of Ethics. So comes the next point that, ma'am, if these questions are asked in the exam, which is always going to be there for 20 marks, what is the approach that we have to follow? For discussing the ethics questions in the exam, you always have to adopt a 3-step process. Always. Okay, what is a 3-step process? The first step is understanding and applying the ACCA Code of Ethics and applying it with relation to the fundamental principles of ethics. Okay, so what you have to do is just first you will see and you will remember the fundamental principles of ethics. Okay, as per the ACCA Code of Ethics, and then you will relate it to the ethical dilemmas or the case studies given to you in the question. Okay, so there are 5 basic fundamental principles. Number 1, integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, professional competence and due care, and professional behavior. We will go in each of them a bit deeper. Okay, so these are the 5 fundamental principles. The questions, the case studies, or the ethical dilemmas given to you in the question will focus on the breach of any of these fundamental principles. It can be 1, 2, 3, 4, or all any of them. So you will see which fundamental principles are getting breached, which has not been met here in the case study or the dilemma. Okay, you will discuss about that in the question. Then because of that breach, there are threats that have arisen. Okay, there are threats that have arisen. So what are the threats that have arisen as a result of that breach? Is it a self-interest threat? Is it a self-review threat? It is an advocacy threat, intimidation threat, familiarity threat. Which threat it is? We will see in relation to the ethical principles which are breached. And then the last step is you have to identify the safeguards, suggest the safeguards to mitigate the risk. Okay, and to take the corrective action. So we'll look into the internal environment, external source, internal source, everywhere, what safeguards can be put in place. This is a typical three-step process that is going to be followed universally for all ethics related questions. Let's go in detail of it and let's understand. Okay, let's understand first what are the 5 basic principles, fundamental principles. So then comes the next question. Very important. Yeah, this I really wanted to discuss. I am discussing a lot about ethics, right? My question to you is why do you think these following of these ethics is so important? I mean, why it is so essential to follow the principles of code of ethics? What would it matter or how would it matter if you do not follow the same? You do not follow ethical codes. Then how would it matter? Can anyone tell me in the chat box? Why are following of these ethics so important, or following of these fundamental principles so important for an organization? Think. It would compromise the opinion of the accountant. Okay, but look at the larger picture. I wanted to look at the larger picture. Boss, why do we need the ethics to be followed? Because we have a responsibility. And who has given that responsibility? The different stakeholders. Very good. So because of which, if the integrity or the trust of the company is lost, the stakeholders will remove their funds and the entity will have troubles. So ethics are the code of moral principles that are followed by accountants while discharging their professional duties. Ethical requirements go beyond the legal requirement. Absolutely correct. Absolutely. So companies, they bear responsibilities towards the different stakeholders, be it the employees, management, creditors, lenders, debtors, or any other entity, any other stakeholder. So because we carry responsibility towards the stakeholders. So therefore, we have to ensure that financial statements are prepared properly and there is no ethical breach which is there. There is no ethical principle which is getting breached here. Because then it would give to, the results other way around. Right? So therefore, we need to ensure that there is no breach happening. So these are the 5 principles. Again, we have to highlight these principles breach in the question. We have to identify which principles are being breached here. Accordingly, you will frame your answer. Number 1, integrity. Integrity means what? You have the integrity, means you have the honesty. So integrity is linked with honesty. That means the accountant should be straightforward and honest in all their professional dealings. In all their professional dealings, they should be honest and straightforward. More than straightforward, honest is a very big trait. Objectivity. Objectivity means you should be objective in your judgments. Means what? You are unbiased. You don't have any conflict of interest that is there. Okay? And there is no influence of anybody on you to take the decisions. Okay? So there is no influence. There is no biasness and there is no conflict of interest. Conflict of interest means what? Conflict of interest means that I am acting as an accountant for both the buyer and the seller of a transaction. Now, since you're acting for both, there is going to be a conflict of interest that is going to be there because then you would whether you are acting for the buyer or the seller or both, it makes difference, right? So if I'm an accountant for buyer, I would like to uh, have the strategies in place so that I buy at a lower rate. If I'm the seller's accountant or a seller's professional, when I'm giving advices, I would like to sell at a higher rate. So it's going to be contradictory to both of them, right? So hence it may give rise to conflict of interest, which gives means this conflict of interest is a threat of objectivity. Third, professional competence and due care. A very interesting case. An entity or a client has hired you because you've qualified as a ACCA, and you go into the job or you go for your client place and you're reviewing balance sheet, but you are still not clear with the IFRSs. So if that is the case, that means your competence is affected. You are not that professionally competent to do the organization, right? So professional knowledge maintenance is very, very important. Okay, professional knowledge maintenance is very important. That is, whatever are the accounting standards, technical standards applicable, make sure you have a good hold of it. That is why I say have absolute conceptual clarity. Otherwise, you will face troubles when you actually start working in corporate environment. Next, confidentiality. We have discussed about it. It is mandatory that all the information that accountant has hold of because of his relationship with the entity. He is bound by the principle of confidentiality. That means he cannot reveal that information to anyone. To anyone, he cannot reveal it. Last, professional behavior. This is in line with professional competence and due care. Professional behavior means you're complying with the laws and regulations. You are complying, that is acceptable professional behavior as per the code of ethics. Okay, you are behaving, you are, adopting a manner which is completely consistent in lines with the professional behavior which is accepted, okay, for all the professional relationships. Any con- any action that would bring discredit to the profession should be disregarded. So any action that brings discredit to the profession should not be considered. This is professional behavior. So professional behavior means you're complying with the laws and regulations. You are acting in the most professional way that is accepted, for all the business and the professional dealings that we're entering into. And there is absolutely no activity undertaken by the accountant anyway, which is going to bring discredit to the profession. Okay, so all this approach should be ensured. Now, what you have to do with the question, you will have to see which of these fundamental principles are the situations, these are getting breached, which are not getting complied with. So this is very, very important. See, most of the time, competence plays a very important role because most of the time your knowledge is tested, whether the action taken by the management is correct or not, as per the relevant IFRS. So you have to ensure that you are showing that professional competence skills. Okay, any doubts and any questions here? Please tell me any doubts, any questions. Yash, Jatin, we will have some examples also discussing, and I'll take some case studies now. Let me just give you more clarity. Just allow me a minute. I'll just give you a few examples also for the same. Yeah. So I'll give a certain examples also. Integrity example can be that is when an accountant becomes aware of an offense, okay, but he becomes a party to the offense. Honesty is affected. At the same time, objectivity is also affected. Professional competence and due care would be affected. Suppose there is an IFRS which is not being followed properly. There's a withdrawal from that IFRS. As an ACC professional, you're expected to carry on with that knowledge, the technical knowledge, right? You're expected to have a hold of the technical knowledge. So that means there is a incompetency at your end. Your end means the accountant's end, and hence it will give rise to professional incompetent behavior. Okay? Okay. Confidentiality, we have already discussed an example, also case, also like previous accountants example. Professional behavior, again, is very much linked with professional competencies. See, because if IFRS is not followed, it shows a lack of professional behavior also. There can be many times cases given to you where the ACC professional, for example, has has full access to the IFRSs available. Okay, access to a database of IFRS available, and that ACC professional is well versed with it. And even after doing it, they're doing errors. So what is it? That means the behavior is not in line with what it should be. So it's not a professional behavior, right? So these are some areas that we have. These are some examples that help us in understanding about these basic principles, the fundamental principles of ethics that we have to see in the questions if they are getting not met with. They are being departed. Okay, I hope I'm clear. Now I'll come to the next portion, threads. Then I'll again take some portions in between. But before that, let's have few case studies also, just to understand the different kind of, the practices that have been followed where there have been ethical issues. For example, the Tesco scandal. It was a very, very famous scandal that we are taking up here. So what happened with Tesco? Tesco was a British company. It was a multinational grocery and the general merchandise retailer. In 2014, the fraudulent activities came in picture. Okay. So what was the method of fraud? They would recognize the commercial income from the suppliers earlier than what it should be as per the accounting standards. So they would inflate their profits. They would inflate the profits. Okay. And inflating the profits would, how would they inflate the profits? They inflated it by inflating, artificially increasing the value of rebates, discounts. Okay. Now, so early recognition of income happened. Right? Now, what do you think? Which ethical problems are arising here? Professional competence and due care, professional behavior, integrity, objectivity, everything is getting affected. Okay, of course, confidentiality right now, no, because the professional accountants were not involved. Of course, they were the management only. They were involved in the fraud. And as an employee, there's a confidentiality breach. No, that did not happen. Confidentiality breach did not happen. But it's about integrity, objectivity, and all that took place. But why was this manipulation done? Because there was too much market pressure to meet the targets. Too much market pressure. So I would give you another famous example of Enron. I mean, I have experienced that Enron scandal is one of the biggest scandals in the history of the scandals in the world. Okay, because at one place when the financial instruments when the financial statements were issued, they were absolutely perfect. In fact, they seemed to be very, very healthy. And within 2 months, it was declared bankrupt. So it was a turmoil for the investors. Okay. Now consequences were the prices dropped, profits overstated, there were fines and settlements levied, and executors are prosecuted, of course, when it was caught. So let's just have a look at other case also, like I said, the Enron case. It took place between 1998 to 2001. So I remember even I've read about this course. I read about this fraud when I was doing my studies, professional studies. So Enron scandal, like in India, we have the Satyam scandal, which is one of the biggest scandals of the corporate scandals in our Indian history. Enron was one of the biggest scandals ever in the European history as well. So here what they did, they had off balance sheet entities created. Okay. And there were multiple entities that were created which were not profitable. And they were specifically removed from consolidation. So those entities were in fact loss-making entities, heavily into debts. When you remove loss-making entities and you're just left with profit-making entities, picture will look fancy and beautiful. Absolutely, this is what happened with Enron. Based on this picture, investors which they were very confident. Enron statements look very promising, so they invested into the Enrons a lot. And in fact, Enron adopted one more approach. Instead of recording the assets as historical cost or following the IFRS, they recorded all the assets at mark to market basis. So what would this do? This would inflate the prices, right, thereby showing the higher profits. And they created also false accounting entries. So everything went wrong. Integrity, objectivity, all five fundamental principles were wrong. And eventually what happened? Bankruptcy was filed, and it is the largest corporate bankruptcy ever filed in US. Okay, investors' losses went into multiple $1 billion. Was such a huge fraud. So what I'm trying to say is, as an accountant, then your accountability becomes even more, because you have to ensure that these fundamental principles are not at all breached, and the investors and the different stakeholders that you are representing are the interests are intact. Let's have a look at one more. No, this is for the stakeholders. No, we just have these corporate cases given. In fact, Satyam scandal is also one of the most popular scandals ever. Okay, I hope we have now clarity on it. Clarity from the point that I hope that now you'll be able to handle the questions and write the questions in the exam, right? We'll be doing discussion of questions also, don't worry. Let's go to the next part where I'm going to discuss threats. Okay, after that, I will summarize and take other portions also. Okay, now, as per the ACCA Code of Ethics, the threats to the fundamental principles are, like we discussed, self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, intimidation threat, and familiarity threat. Self-interest threat is, my management says, boss, you present this report in a particular way and I will be giving to you, apart from the audit fees that you receive, $100,000 more. Honesty goes down, interest goes up, self-interest threat. Okay. So it is a threat that very much related with integrity, that the accountant will not be honest in its business and these accounting relationships. Okay. So therefore, generally, the threat has influence of financial component more. Or it can be any other component also. Like, for example, you've seen it in your movies, the same case, where they say, okay, fine, you do this work in a particular way, and we will give you a house. We will give you, book a flat for you, we'll book a house for you. This is in kind, but this is also affecting their integrity, right? So it's a self-interest threat. Self-review threat is a very typical threat that every big four also has it. So I'll give an example. I used to I worked with Deloitte. So when I was working as their start auditor, and I was working for different multiple clients, generally those clients were repeated clients. Okay, because at that time rotation policy was not there, so those were repeated clients. Now I encountered a case where I had done the work for year one. The same work was copy pasted for year two by another person without giving it a thought that whether the same situations exist in the second year also or not. Or do we really need to copy paste everything? Do we really need to, not put any efforts? This is self review threat. There is always a threat that you would use the work of others or maybe your work also of the previous periods without making a note of it that the situations may change and this may not be applicable or this may be applied in a different way. Okay, so self-review threat is the threat that the professional accountant will not evaluate the results of a previous judgment or made or any activity performed by the accountant or any other individual in the accountant's firm on which he is relying on. Clear? Third threat, advocacy threat. Advocacy is now you're advocating on behalf of the client. So you are promoting client's work because you've got some interest in that client's work. So you are publicly commenting, you're publicly disclosing about discussing about the client's work. It's just like advocating. When you're advocating, you become it's more like an interest threat that also arises. So that's very dangerous for the organization. If you're professional only, accounting professional only, uh, you know, uh, uh, creates a threat like this. Fourth, familiarity threat. Familiarity threat is you and the client, that is the accountant and the client are very good friends. They have lunch together, they have dinner together, they play golf together, and so on. Do you think it will pose a challenge when they're auditing the statements of the client? Of course, they're going to have objectivity threat. They're going to have a biasness attitude also towards them. So this is familiarity threat. The threat of the professional accountant to be too sympathetic to the interest of the client or the employing organization due to their long-term relationships with them. Third, last one, intimidation threat. Intimidation threat is you want to, professional accountant is not able to act objectively. Why? Why? There's a person who's come and put a gun like this and say you have to follow what I'm saying. Intimidation. They're trying to influence you. They're trying to give a threat to you. Okay, they're posing an influence. They're posing a threat on the award of contract or the application of the principle. So you're bound to act in that particular manner only. That is intimidation threat. I hope I'm clear till this point. Any queries, any problems in understanding the fundamental principles and the threats? Absolutely. But what does it mean? Self-review also means you are not reviewing your work. Self-review threat. That means you're not reviewing only. Even if you're using your own work, you should apply it in this given situation. Not all situations are same, right? So it's a threat that your work is not being reviewed. You are just copy pasting it in simple terms. Okay? So, guys, I'm going to stop here. I won't take more because a lot of students have missed out. And also, as it is the first session, that is bound to be an orientation session. So, I'm not going to take more portions. If you have any queries and questions, please tell me. I will be sharing the notes, topics, etc. It will be shared to you on your LMS portal. Okay? So, please follow your LMS portal rigorously and properly. Any doubts? Any challenges in understanding today's portions? Yash, Vinita, and Jatin? Were you comfortable with how we had the session today? Was the delivery comfortable for everyone? Okay, fine. Fine, fine, fine. Okay. Great, great, great. So let's continue with the sessions and we'll be meeting now on Friday evening. Thursday will be a break. Okay, Thursday will be off on account of Holi. So Friday we'll have the session. I hope Friday evening is convenient to everyone. So Friday evening we'll have the session. Okay, 7 to 10 p.m. Okay, then see you on Friday. Please, in the meantime, get the book, get the material so that we have a full-fledged sessions beginning on Friday. You all will be, included or involved in that with your materials in hand. Okay, bye-bye. Take care. Have a great day. Have a great week. Bye-bye. Okay, no. Jatin, let me just elaborate. You have the sessions for SBR Tuesday 7:30 to 10:30, the same for Thursday, and Friday 7 to 10. You have 3 sessions in a week. Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturday, Sunday, we have ATX classes. Okay? And the other P level subjects also. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye. Take care. Have a great day.